YouTube, it is your girl Trisha checking back in. And for those who've been rocking with me, welcome back to the channel. So today what I wanted to get in is just talking about knowing that you're a flame and asking you, do you know that you are a flame? Because if you know that you are a flame, then it is time for you to feast. Because this is your time to shine. This is your time to get what God has for you. And you have to know that you were not in this place or in this moment, this era in time, this generation by accident. You were not. Right now, we are facing the battle of truth and deception. We're fighting against light and the darkness. We are also battling holiness versus compromising. And he let us know, he said, right now we are not to compromise. He said, look around you. He said, look around you. He said, the world is drowning in noise. He said, the whole world, we're drowning in noise. Yes. He said, and we don't even know we're starving for truth. In this season, he said, we are striving for the truth. Mm. He said, you got people bowing to altars for comfort. And that the altars that they're bowing at, he said, those same altars that they're bowing at, he said, some of them, they don't even know that the spirit, whether in chains or understanding that they're trying to find some freedom. He said they don't even know anymore. He said he said the altars that people are bowing to nowadays, we don't even know. Are we being chained to this? Or are we looking for freedom through this? He said right now the destruction and the confusion is kicking up so heavy that you don't even know that you were called to be different. He said so many of us keep looking for ways to blend in, to blend in. He said, but the truth be told, you are a disruptor. You are a breaker of cycles. He said, and when you understand this, you will understand you need to walk in the fire. He said, when you get to this point, you will start walking in the fire. He said, and when you get to this point, he said, say hello to the heat. He said, tell the heat hello. He said, because the heat ain't your enemy. Nope. Mm-mm. He said, it is your maker. He said, anytime you stepping in them flames, you better know that that is your maker. He said, if you forgot, he said, think about Daniel brothers. He said, think about them. They didn't beg for the flames to be extinguished. He said, they walked in that fully. He said, they walked in the flames fully. They knew either way, they weren't finna bow. Then they walked into that fire. They said, ooh, they knew either way it go. That the God that they serve ain't gonna let them just walk in them with them flames without a right purpose. So they said, either way it go, we're going to walk because we know the God that we serve. God said, this is a reminder. This is a reminder that when you walking in this fire, he said, don't get weary. Don't get dismayed in this fire. He said, rather feast in this fire. He said, this fire is there to mold you. He said, do you know what is going on in this world right now? He said, this is not a time where you are no longer looking or asking anybody for permission. He said, if you rocking with him, he gave you all the permission you need. He said, if you keep on waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting, your time, you're going to miss it looking for the appointed time. He said, this is not that time. He said, especially when the world is collapsing under the weight of half measures, he said, you got to be kidding him. He said, but any of us who know that the fire will not consume us, he said, go forth in this season. He said, go forth. He said, and when you go forth into this fire, know that it's going to purify you. Know that it's going to bring you some battle harness and make sure that you notice that it's going to be unshakable. He said, right now you are walking in unshakable times. He said, and if you know that you're walking like this, he said, then you should be able to step forward and feast. He said, don't get scared in your own feast. He said, he provided that feast just for you. And he said, and if you getting weary at your own table, he said, well, then let him remind you of something. In this season, he said, in this season, do not beg for a seat at another person's table. He said, do not beg. He said, especially when you were called to flip it? He said, especially if you were called to flip that very table you trying to beg at. He said, do you know the power I put inside of you? Do you know the discernment I put in inside of you? Mm. He said, the days of asking for a seat in the broken systems is over. He said, if you don't believe me, he said, you got to remember when Jesus, he said he in the temple, he did not beg, he did not negotiate, he did not negotiate with corruption. Said he turned it all over. Remember when he flipped all them tables and everything over? Said stop making his father a house of mockery. He said, do you know what time it is? He said the tables built on oppression, deceit, and greed, just like they're happening now. He said this is why he's telling you to walk in your boldness. He said and refuse to keep your head down. He said because the kingdom is not inherited by people who are passive. He said it's inherited by people who are bold enough to go after it. He said so stop asking for platforms where you were meant to be the shift. He said stop knocking at doors that you were meant to kick off the hinges. He said, stop looking for validation from structures, from other people. He said, stop looking for it. God has already given us this. He said, so he don't know why you looking for what was already given to you. He said, so rise and flip over those tables. He said, flip them over so that you can find your own balance again. He said, you got to rebalance yourself. He said, excuse me. He said, the world wants you weary. They want you weary. They want you drained. They want you distracted. They want you doubting yourself because a tired warrior is an ineffective one. He said, do you hear this? Do you know this? He said, if you get weary, if you get tired, if you got so much doubt up on you, you are going to be an ineffective warrior. He said, in this season, this is not what he is calling us to. He said, he told us, come to me, all who are weary, all who are burdened, and I will give you rest. He said, I will give you rest. He said, rest ain't retreating. Rest is preparation. He said, that's your preparation. He said you can't fight if you are spiritually malnourished. He said you can't fight. He said you can't pour from an empty wine vessel. You cannot pour from an empty vessel. He said so when you get weary up on you, he said that's why you got to come to him. That's why he keeps you in the fire. Because as long as you stay in the fire, you know who's covering you. You know you know where your faith is. He said that's why he keeps us in the fire. Mm. He said, rebalance yourself in your prayers, in your fasting, and in truth. And fill your spirit so full of the word that when the enemy comes, it is scripture. It is scripture that is going to help fight your battle. That's going to keep you standing in your boldness so that you know who team you on. Oh, he said, because right now when we are called to break chains that the world thrives on as bondage, whether it's mental, emotional, spiritual. Sin is not just an act, it is a cycle, it is a system that is put in place. Those are the strongholds. He said, but when you breaking the chains, you breaking the chains so that it don't pass to the generations, to further generations. And disguising itself as normal. He said, no, we breaking that. We don't want anything else that is disguised as normal. He said, no, baby. He said, we don't want nothing that's wrapping us into this culture and in traditions. And we make excuses for it. He said, in this season, instead, break that chain. He said, break that chain. He said, because right now, he gave each and every one of us his anointings to disrupt patterns. He said, what pattern did he give you to disrupt? He said, go disrupt it then. He said he don't care. He said, and one thing you got to know, he using all of us. He said he's using you, but he said, do you know what pattern he called for you to disrupt? Woo. He said, because when you know that, mm, he said, then you break it off of your bloodline. He said, because when you know what pattern you were called to disrupt, you will break it off of your generation. You will break it off of your bloodline. He said, that is why the enemy fights you. He said, the enemy fights you so hard because he doesn't want you to get this stronghold up off of you. Because he knows if you ever wake up to your authority, he loses his grip over you. And the enemy want to keep his grip. But he said, but if you understand where he called you to disrupt some of that, the enemy got his hold off of you. He said, and in this season, he's calling for the holds to be lifted off of us. He said, and when you get to this point that the enemy lose his grip, he said, rise and shine, for your light has come. He said, when you get to this point, your light has come. The time for you waiting will be over. He said, if you are looking for a sign, this is it. Here's your sign. He said, now step into it and go. He said, the world does not need another silent warrior. No, he said the world needs a warrior with a voice that's coming with a force that's coming with holy disruption. Holy disruption. Mm. He said it's needed. He said, because right now we're trying to unshackle. We're trying to do this unafraid. And we got to make it undeniable of who team we're on. He said, make it undeniable who team you are on in this season. Mm. He said, and the only way you're going to reach this, the only way you're going to really reach this level of faith, he said, is if you understand that you got to die to yourself daily. He said, surrender. He said, you got to know how to surrender. Mm. He said, that means sometimes you're going to have to let go of that pride. You're going to have to let go of that ego. You're going to have to let go of that doubt. And he said, you're going to have to choose obedience. He said, you got to choose his obedience. Mm. He said, you got to choose holiness, sometimes even over popularity. He said, you got to choose obedience over that. Mm. He said, and you better know the word like your life depends on it, because it does. He said, the enemy has no problem with people who go to church, who understands their word a little bit. He said, but he fears those who uses their words as a weapon and study it and speak it and let it change their life. That's when the enemy get nervous. He get nervous when he know that you shifting the playing fields. Mm-hmm. He says, so in this season, when you walking through this fire, and you learning that you're feasting, God said, because you know that he's shaping you. That he is reshaping you in this season. He said, so that's why he tells us to fast and pray. He said, because you must make war against your own flesh. He said, because when you don't make war against your flesh, the flesh has a chance to creep back up. He said, but when you're making war against it, that gotta die. He said, because you gotta make sure you know how to make it your slave. You gotta know how to put it under submission. He said, and sometimes the only way you can put it under submission is with fasting and praying. Fasting and praying. And he said also surrounding yourself with fire starters. Those is people who in that word. Those is people who gonna go on the spiritual warfare for you, who gonna go on that on the behalf of you. Mm. He said, stop getting around people who are fire extinguished. Who anytime they see your fire, your flame lit, that they try to extinguish it. He said, get away from lukewarm people. Mm. He said, spit them out. Don't get around lukewarm people. He said, instead, walk. He said, instead, you got to know how to walk with boldness, even when you scared. He said, fear is not, excuse me, he said, faith is not the absence of fear. Fear can come up, but he said it is the ones who are able to walk in the flames despite of, who are able to move boldly despite the fear being there. Ooh. He said, because if you wait until you feel ready, mm-mm, you will never move. He said, you will never move. You will never speak out. You will never speak up. He said, but when you understand that the flame that you cultivated in, when you understand the spirit that you're in, he said, you're going to move anyway, despite of. He said, and if you believe this, he said, well, then, baby, move. He said, just move. He said, stand up, flip that table over, and feast in the fire. You were born to live. You were not born to live in the shadows. Mm-mm. You were made for war, mm, for victory, mm, for the kingdom. He said, you were made for his kingdom. He said, so move like the kingdom answered you already, because it does answer. But the other half of this is, he said, check your belief system. He said, check your belief system, because you got to believe that he's going to do these things for you. You're going to have to believe, and you got to know without a shadow of doubt where you going with him. Will you move with him? Would you trust the instincts that he's put inside of you? So this is not the time to second guess it. He said, this is your time to move and exercise it. Again, it is your girl Trisha checking back in with a quick message of just letting you know that it is time for you to match up with your flames, and feast in this season. He said, because now your hour is here. It is again your girl Trisha. And if you guys are feeling led, go ahead. My description is below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. And again, to next time. Y'all be easy. You see your brother and sister crown tipping, help them fix it. You ain't got to tell them you fixing it. Just help them fix it in this season, because their time and your time is now.